All right, so the NBA draft came and went, and I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know none of these dudes to really say anything about them in that type of way, or to say I'm surprised about some things. I was like, or some things caught me off guard. I was like, I mean, some things don't make sense just because of positions or whatever. Only thing I can say is like before I get to the main point is that I was like Kleeman going to the Blazers is really weird just because I'm like now they got three centers, so that tells me that at some point I guess somebody's gonna have to be on the move. Williams. Um, let's see. I was like I like the Spurs what they decided to get around Wimby. I was like with Castle and dang it, I forgot the dude's name. I'm not gonna look it up. But I was like, you just gotta figure out the piece that's gonna be around him at this time. I was like, they're more go. I was like, and this more perimeter, and I was like, of course it would be. I was like, Zach Edey going to the Grizzlies. I was like, I'm fine with that pick. I know that everybody's looking at it sort of like he come off the bench and eventually probably be a 15-minute guy. But I do think he comes in handy. I was like, not saying that he's going to be some stopper or nothing like that, but I do think he gives you a change of pace. He's a big dude. I think if you're going to be playing teams like if you play against Denver, he can at least probably give you some good minutes for that spot. Although he might get mismatched on like certain teams with like AD at the five or whatever. AD might be able to, take him out on the perimeter, but it's not like he shoot perimeter shots either. I think Edie will be fine. I think with the Grizzlies as well too. I was like, it's going to be difficult for that team because they don't have the shooting around. Like, yes, you got Triple J and you got Bane, and I think Kennard free, so we'll see about that. So that's a little bit more difficult there. I was like the Suns getting Ryan Davis. I was like, dude plays defense, and I'm like, you got enough offense around you. You don't need anybody else to score. I was like that. I was like he probably going to end up playing quite a bit already. Um, let's say I can't tell you about none of the French dudes. Not even going to try. Um, yeah, so maybe somebody else popping my mind as I'm talking. But the whole thing is really about the fact that hey, the Lakers did it. They drafted Bronny James. Now I will say, you know what? And I was like, this gonna tie in is that so now they got two backcourt players. They got Dalton Connect and they got Bronny James. Now I will say Connect is because of where I am sort of around. Guess what? I've seen a lot of Connect highlights before him in the draft, and I was like, oh man, he seemed like a really good player or stuff like that. Cause he's at Tennessee. I'm in the South and sort of the quadrant down. I'm like, oh okay, cool. I see his highlights or whatever, and I was like, oh, okay, he's like a pretty good player. And I was like, oh okay, but you never know with none of these dudes of how they're gonna get into the league because it's like, hey, I was like, to me, to be honest, I was like, I made a bold. I think it's funny that I'm like, hey, the Lakers always get themselves. I was like a white boy, and that can. I was like, and that can actually play. I was just like, at least they actually drafted this one because Alex Caruso undrafted. I was like, Austin Reeves undrafted. At least they drafted a dude. And to me, to be honest, he really sort of looks like he's in the mode of Austin Reeves than he does of like Alex Caruso. Like an offensive player, could shoot, take it to the basket. I think he's a lot more athletic than Reeves as well too. I think I was like, he's an older player, so it's like you're expecting him to come in and actually be able to play faster. But I think it's a good pick just also because it's like, hey, can't have too many guards out in the West, and you're just trying to figure out who you sort of got the four spots lined up with LeBron and AD. So hey, that guard position, and look, they were giving backup minutes to Spencer Dinwiddie, who ain't do nothing, and Gabe Vincent, who ain't do nothing. Granted, he was hurt. Bronny James, let's get to him. I'm surprised. Yes and no. I'm not surprised that at that point the Lakers drafted because at that point he might have been looking at a little bit undrafted already at that spot. I was like, yeah, because I'm like, you're really getting close to the end of the second draft. I mean, second round at that point. I'm not surprised that he didn't go in the first round. I didn't think that nobody was really going to take a chance there. I mean, maybe if you got somebody, because I like Utah that got a bunch of picks, the Thunder that got a bunch of picks. You know, like teams like that I could sort of see, but for the most part, I was like for him to fall in the second round, a little bit surprised since we're in the second round and you just sort of taking picks. But the reason I say I'm surprised with the Lakers is because like I don't know how to feel about that of playing directly on the team with your pops. And I guess that's probably from my point of view of like I'm like I wouldn't want to be in that. I no. I'm like your dad. I was like, cause everybody try to make the case of like you get to see your dad how he practices off the court, but now you get to see how he does. And I was like, well, how he does in the building, how he actually trains and talk to people and all this stuff. And I was like, do you not think that he already doesn't? I was like, we show Steph Curry clips all the time when he was with Dale. We show Clay when he was with his dad. Like we show all these other dudes when they're with their dads all the time at the facilities, at these places. And yes, not for like the hell of a long time where it's like all day, every day trying to get these shots up and working and practicing and stuff like that. But we see them that we can see how they operate. So now you're gonna be around your dad who's going to be cranked up higher on whatever unfilteredness you already seen. Which I'm like, do you really need to see your dad like that? I was like, whatever you just. I was like, how much? I was like, okay, look, how much wilding? I was like, is he gonna really be able to do? How much learning outside of? It's almost like the same thing of like sometimes you need to just go away from where your family is. You know, like not saying that you don't miss them, that you don't love them, that you don't want to be around them, but sometimes you just need to get away. No Snicker commercial. Just like, hey, you need to just like mess up on your own, figure out how to do this on your own. I was like, talk to these people over here, cause guess what? He gonna be with his dad the whole time when they gonna get food, training session. Can you imagine he's over here trying to train his son and trying to get these dudes also to do their thing or whatever, and he like, Bronny, shoot it. Like I'm like, I was like, that's what goes in my head. And it's not that I'm like saying that I'm like he already had like he's been with his dad, so his dad already got that high level NBA stuff. But I think it's different when it's like you see him, you training them, y'all playing like just at the Y type of joint. I was like, it's different than to me like you seeing him play on USC or whatever like that. To me, that's different than when we're on the court and you ain't get that right. And guess what? I was like, somebody else would have probably got cussed out by LeBron. Like, the hell you doing? I told you get over here, pitch this screen right here, blah blah blah. Is he gonna do that? I was like, look, people picked on Lonzo Ball because his daddy. I was like, people picked on Austin River because of his daddy. I was like, look, man, we don't do this. Not everybody get that same treatment. Some of them, I was like, it depends on who it is. We're gonna see what type of stuff Bronny gets or whatever. I'm just saying, but from the Lakers' perspective, I was like, I did it from Bronny's perspective of how I would feel in that case, and like, hey, maybe he's a little bit more mature than me or something like that. I don't know. I can't speak for him in that type of way. I just gave my feelings of how I would feel having to be paired up with my daddy LeBron. But Lakers perspective, I was like, I don't think it's a bad pick for the Lakers. I was like, you get a guard that's defensive. I was like he'll develop his 3-point shot. I was like, look, he gonna come around. He gonna have his struggles or whatever like that. I said that I think that Bronny has NBA tools. I just think that I was like his dad. I was like, yes, his daddy helped him get to where he's at, and not even in the same way of like, you know, how second generation is. I was like, no. I feel like if it was anybody else with the same stuff, they probably wouldn't get drafted, even though they could have NBA tools. I was like, we get undrafted people all the time to play for the league. If you just got us, but if you got your, but once if you're drafted, you got a more guaranteed shot. Is what I'm trying to say. But I was like, we already seen that I was like, he while he's short, he has a crazy wingspan. I was like, his 3-point shot is getting better. I was like, on a team with other NBA talents, he's going to be able to find a role a lot better. I was like, I think also being on also this I think where you're going to have JJ Redick involved of like where his idea and stuff like that. Like he already knows LeBron, he already knows his son. They done probably already talked about these type of things. So I think he'll already be creative how to use Bronny. Bronny's going to be a spot up shooter until he's able to get to the point of like taking some dude off the dribble. But he ain't gonna have to do that. You got Reeves, you got D'Angelo, you got LeBron, you got AD. I was like, you got enough dudes. I was like, that's going to be in the position of taking shots and all the other stuff. And anything he do extra is a luxury at this point in time. He's young enough. I was like, to be honest, I thought that they would just do the pick just because Bronny, if everything goes good, not the best, but good, he can be a Laker for life type of player. He's already here. He's ingrained. He's going to have something that his daddy doesn't have, and that's you were drafted here. And if things go well, you can be synonymous with the Lakers. Now, if you would depend on how much you win and stuff like that, and how much he develops, I was like, hey, you could be maybe Derek Fisher here. I was like, you ain't gonna be Kobe unless you out here like balling like that. But you ain't gonna be Kobe. But you could be one of them people that they talk about when they talk about the Laker teams and stuff like that. Where it's like you here for 8 years, guess what? You part of this Laker thing. And I was like, that's what they're never going to be able to take away. That technically, not LeBron James, but LeBron James can be a Laker. But I think for the team, I think it's a good pick. I was like developmental kind of thing. I think he's going to probably actually get a chance to really play. To be honest, like I said, he's out here able to play defense, and if he's able to do that, he has something on the team that they don't have at that guard position. Like I said before, some of the stuff how I said about him, I said I think he's like, to me, he could be anywhere between like a Patrick Beverly, DeAndre Melton, Anthony Melton, Reggie Jackson. I feel like he's in that type of mode. I was like point guard, got dude that probably should be 2, but he's not. Can guard guys, shoot the ball. I was like, Reggie Jackson had a crazy wingspan type of dude and developed into a good enough offensive player. Like Reggie Jackson couldn't have a team himself, but when he was on the Clippers, that dude was a monster. And a lot of times, so that's why I think it is. I think it's a good pick, despite how I feel like them being on the same team and what that might create and all that other drama. Because guess what? If he went to somewhere, like, say he went to the Raptors, like how they speculate or something like that, hey, we would talk about him, but it really wouldn't. But we let him just develop up there. Take your time, baby. I was like, you were on the team with your dad, and you on the Lakers? Man, if y'all already thought this wasn't about to be like egregious with all the stuff, whoo! Whether that boy do good or bad, it's about to be a lot. But anyway, how do y'all feel about the Bronny James selection and any other stuff from the draft? Educate me. Let me know about some people or whatever. Like I said, I was just looking at sizes and team need, and I was like, that's how I was looking at stuff, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's good. That's fine. Oh, okay, cool. But I actually don't know none of these dudes. I'm not gonna lie. But until then, peace. I'm out.